Welcome to the Vanilla To Vixen podcast. This show contains adult content, so if you are under 18 or easily offended, please switch off now. Mr and Mrs N are not qualified relationship counsellors. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Now the disclaimer is out of the way, sit back, relax, and enjoy our journey from Vanilla to Vixen.
Welcome to episode 69 of Vanilla to Vixen. We are your hosts, Mr and Mrs N, and we're also known as...
The Naughty Couple.
Hello, Mrs N.
Hello, Mr N.
It's number 69.
I know, you were slightly excited about that.
I've been excited all week about this for a couple of reasons. The first reason I'm really excited is we've got Mr and Mrs Foxy.
Yay!
On the show, all the way from Wales.
Yes.
It's the land of slow driving.
And moist weather.
You can't drive around at 69 miles an hour in Wales. It's 20 miles an hour everywhere now. And, of course, it's episode 69. Which It's like my favourite number.
Why is that, then?
Well, you know what makes 69 different from driving in fog?
No.
You can't see the asshole in front of you in driving in fog. It's 69.
That was very good. That was very good, dear.
So, yes, we've got Mr and Mrs Foxy. Now, they've wanted to... It's been a while since they've been on the show.
Is it almost a year?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And Mrs Foxy wants to talk about quite a serious issue within the lifestyle, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. And I think it's quite an important issue, which I think a lot of people may relate to.
We're talking about jealousy within the swinging lifestyle.
Yeah.
So within couples, and I guess, you can have jealousy as well. If you're single, you might meet somebody else in the lifestyle and, there could be jealousy there if they go off and play with somebody else and you develop feelings. There's all sorts of combinations.
There's a lot of combinations.
So let's get straight onto it. Let's get on the phone to Mr and Mrs Foxy.
It's us, we're here.
Hello.
Now, we've all been rather excited this week, haven't we? Because we've suddenly found out we've got an extra playroom at Vanilla to Vixen this weekend.
I know.
It's super exciting, isn't it? Beyond the velvet curtain. I can't wait.
I know. It's like... But the thing is, everyone's been saying that there's kind of like two curtains. There's one curtain that you can go behind and obviously find the thing. And then there's a second curtain that you can't go behind. And I can only presume that the wizard is behind the second curtain. The wonderful wizard.
You don't have to go through the wizard's sleeve.
Do you go in and make a wish and just say, I really, really want a hard-on?
Do you have to sort of like click your ruby light heels 3 times and...
and then orgasm?
Yes, there's no place like this.
Seen a few cowardly lions.
Yes, it's going to be quite exciting, isn't it, at V2V?
It is. It's going to be a good one, and the guest list is absolutely chock-a-block full. We've got a couple of spaces left, and that's literally it. It filled up really quickly.
It did, and not only that, but because of the new area and the equipment that's going to be there.
Yes.
We have the amazing Tina Von Teese.
We do, and we're giving away to anyone that makes a donation, just drops a coin in your box, Mrs. A.
If you drop a coin in my slot...
You get a tickle.
You do. You get a tickling stick.
You do. So, yes, I've been lovingly making lots of tickly sticks for everybody.
It's going to be a good one this weekend.
Have you got your outfit sorted, guys?
Well, you know what I'm wearing.
Oh, I know what you're wearing.
Now, Mrs N, I'm not allowed to mention what Mrs N is wearing. I'm not even allowed to take photos. She tried it on, but there will be something on Twitter or X or whatever it's called this week. Afterwards, after the party, there will be photos.
It's not just my outfit, it's yours as well. We're going to look like a pair of twats.
I'm not saying anything.
I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure that's not true.
So come on then,
Well,
guys.
we know you've got a big top.
Have you been looking in my dressing room? Oh dear.
I think most people know I have a big top. It's not a secret. So come on, my lovelies. It's been a long time since we've had you on the podcast.
It has. Yeah, we're just about getting over being in a room with 25 other swingers, 23, 24 other swingers.
Was that the last time?
That's the last time we were on. Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a year. Over a year.
No.
We were on, just the two of us.
Yeah, I think it has. Yeah.
That's too long. That's too long.
Yeah, well, there's been everybody's been so busy, and you've had so many guests, haven't you? You've had so many people come and be on the podcast, and there's been so much to talk about, and so many different points of view, and so many things to think about. You know, we always listen to a podcast when we're traveling, because obviously we travel from outer space. So it's like, what are we going to do for 4 hours? So we crank up the podcast, we save them. We always try and listen to them together, don't we? We sit and listen to them together so that we can just pick it apart. And how does that make you feel? And you're either laughing, sometimes one of you's a bit uncomfortable, sometimes it brings things. It's great. It's always a talking point, isn't it? So it makes our little journey fly by.
And we're getting further and further away, because like last week we had the fabulous Mr and Mrs Snow from America. And then we've gone even more remote to Wales this week.
You're lucky, actually, because I've just got back from Tenerife, so that could have been a distance call.
Oh, it could have been.
Oh, that would have been good. DJing with Mr Foxy.
Was that work or pleasure, darling?
A little bit about... You can't go to Tenerife without a bit of pleasure, but as you know, as the infamous swinging Jedi, I was out there on my personal development training. So beautiful location to go and get back into your zone.
That sounds fantastic.
I was going to say, that's not a bad place to go to get in your zone, is it?
Absolutely fantastic.
Although they did lock us in a room for 12 hours a day, and I didn't get my toes wet in the infinity pool for 6 days.
Ugh.
Oh, no.
Are there any nude beaches in Tenerife?
There's got to be, hasn't there? There's nude beaches everywhere.
Well, I suppose it's near enough to Gran Canaria. It must be catching.
Yeah. You did not investigate, although I was most put out to see the amount of winks that we had on Fab from people actually in Tenerife. So I knew he'd been flicking his look who's near button without me. I knew exactly what was going on. I couldn't pull locally for love nor money, and then we're getting like 11 billion winks from people who are having frisky holidays in Tenerife whilst I was here extracting mice from the chimney and things like that.
That's brilliant.
So other than being, off in the sun working hard and locked in a room, what else have you guys been up to since the last time we saw you?
What would you say you've been up to?
What have I been up to? I've been doing my Zen Jediing at home.
Yes, you have been. You've been very Zen Jedi, haven't you? I've spent most of my time on Discord, if I'm honest, because I'm not that productive. So
It does have that kind of like addictive thing, doesn't it? Where you just think, oh, I'll just pop on.
Facebook can't cut it now because you can't say what you think, and you can't share a rude picture, and you can't. Discord is the thing for me, and I've come out of almost all of the groups except the V2V one, because they're just because some of the groups are absolutely humongous. You can't keep up with the chat. You don't know who you don't know who it is. So I like a bit of familiarity. Yeah. So it's like a comfort blanket. So,
and it has been very interesting because obviously since casting your mind back a year plus when we first talked, and it was really looking at Miss Fox's introduction into the naughty hobby, and things have moved on quite considerably since then.
Tell us more. We want to know the details.
Well, as you talk about the evolution in the lifestyle, it's amazing how things change fairly rapidly, and that brings about some of the queries and things, which has led us to this call today, really.
Tell us more.
Yeah, I found out I'm a really jealous cow.
Hey, listen, honey, you're not on your own.
And I think we've had to have a lot of very deep, difficult conversations to find out where that comes from. Is it even worth staying with the hobby? You know, you've got to think, is this, you know, is this getting me in such a state that I can't go on with it? You know, that kind of thing. And it's not nice to have to say, you know, I realise that there's quite a bit of jealousy in me. I'm quite a jealous individual. But I don't want to stop what we're doing. We've had to change a few things. People that have seen us in clubs over the last couple of months might have noticed that wearing a tag. It's
not that I'm out on parole, although it does feel a bit like it at times.
So do you mind? Because this is quite a personal thing.
Yeah.
And like you say, it does affect a lot of people. I have jealousy issues. I've always had jealousy issues since I've been with Mr. N. But it's not, and this is the hard thing to try and explain. And I don't know whether, Miss Foxy, you feel the same way. So when I say to Mr. N that, you know, there's no other woman going to be anywhere near you that can have you or anything else, and he'll say, but I don't want any other woman. He said, it's not about that. But it's very hard to explain from a woman's point of view what she means.
Yes, yeah, it is. And I think that as well, do you know what? I've met such a broad spectrum of women in the lifestyle hobby, whatever you want to call it, and some of them are just able to. I've met one and she's phenomenal, and she says, I've not got a jealous bone in my body, and I think that must be so freeing to feel like that. And then you think, and then you feel inadequate because I don't feel like that. But I don't think is the thought. I don't suddenly think that Mr. Fox is going to run off with somebody. I think it's quite hard to think that somebody can give him something that I can't.
I totally get that. And I went through a massive stage with that because obviously for anybody that hasn't listened to the podcast before or doesn't know me, knows that obviously I'm an anal only girl because I have a medical condition where I've got damaged nerve endings and it can make vaginal sex quite painful. And so for me, one of the things that I had the major jealousy of the thought of Mr. N with another woman was they could give him something I couldn't. That's
quite difficult, isn't it? And you sort of come into this, and Mr. Fox always said to me, well, it's about sharing and it's about giving your partner things in an open way that doesn't threaten, you know, the fundamentals of your own relationship.
Yeah.
So, but I always feel that Mr. Fox draws a lot of attention, and I do often feel that whilst, you know, we're not a hot wife couple, we know lots of hot wife couples who play in a similar way to you guys do.
Yeah.
I'm not there for him to be a hot husband. So I'm not really interested in him in sitting there watching him rail some woman and then sit next to her husband who's just sitting there with his mouth open watching.
Yeah.
I'm not that generous spirited. And there are always women that can give him things that I can't. I can't be a 6-foot woman. I can't look like a woman that lifts weights. I can't do the up the bum thing. I'm not very good at riding him because I've got short legs. You know, things like this. I've got a really bad gag reflex. So there's things he can get in the lifestyle that he's not going to get from me. So,
but for Mr. Foxy, are those sort of things that you feel you're missing out on?
No, because, you know, and this is the thing. It's very much, it's in the mind of the individual. And you know, we hear this on every week of the podcast. Communication is key. You know, if you're not talking about an upcoming event or meet, or you're not discussing the event or meet afterwards, then you're not really playing the game properly, because maintaining that connection and understanding how each other feels is you know, it's the root cause of taking away some of those issues so that you can relax and enjoy yourself. And being open enough to say, well, this bothered me on this occasion, but to do it from a place of non-judgment. You just explain, it gave me a feeling that it made me feel uncomfortable. And then you start talking about it. And my role, as I see it, in that conversation is to be reassuring. And to go back to when Miss Foxy mentioned about the tag, we talk about it humorously, but we had a situation where, you know, we had inadvertently got with a hot wife couple, and that isn't our dynamic. And whether they realised that was theirs or not at the time, I don't know. They were fairly new. But Miss Foxy felt left out and sidelined. And that isn't how we play.
It's very easy, isn't it? It's very easy to get into that situation where one partner does feel left out.
Yeah, and I think in a club as well, it's difficult. When you arrange a meet on Fab, you can kind of sound out a couple, you can talk about their dynamic. But generally, when you meet another couple in a club, you don't sort of say, well, what's your dynamic? And for us, we've realised that maybe we should be asking that question.
Yeah.
However, when you're all tangled up in a load of bodies on the bed, it's not something, hang on a minute, everybody, I just need to get my clipboard out and just get this checklist. It's not going to happen, is it? So
are we back to your list again?
Yes, back to my list again. So, and to be fair, Mr. Foxy it was completely inadvertent. He had made an assumption that I was happy that I was elsewhere doing something that I wasn't, when in reality I was stomping round libs waiting for him to stop playing so that I could kill him and give him an earful.
There was a pregnant pause then.
You know, I would normally wait until about Thursday when we've been home a few days, and I'd tell him I'm fine. I'd tell him I'm fine, and then he leaves like a teaspoon in the dishwasher or something, and I let him have it.
Yeah.
So we just, and I really said, you know, if this is going to happen, then it's not going to make me feel valued. I'm already, I am, you know, maybe I am in the wrong hobby, because I'm riddled with feelings of inadequacy and blah-de-blah. I haven't got a unique selling point the way a lot of women in the lifestyle have got.
Oh, I think you do.
I completely disagree with that.
Absolutely disagree with that one.
But it is how you see yourself, isn't it? Somebody can say...
Yes, of course it is.
So that kind of pushed all of my buttons, and it got to the point where I said to him, I don't know how this is going to work. And then you have to... The thing is, when you have to admit that you're jealous, it's like admitting, you have to acknowledge that little part of yourself that you're not very happy with anyway, because nobody wants to see themselves as a jealous individual. It's not very nice to admit it to yourself, but you have to be able to do that to be able to deal with it. When you go into a situation, when you go into clubs, there are always going to be more attractive individuals. There are always going to be younger women. There are always going to be more experienced women. There are always going to be more sexually competent women. Get all of that. And that's what we're going there for. You know, we're going there. It's like you wouldn't go into a sweet shop and buy a packet of Polos every week, would you? You'd want a sherbet dib dab, or you'd want
Are you a sherbet dib dab, Mrs N?
I do like a bit of a sherbet dib dab, I have to say.
Or, you know, jumbo love arts. It's so, and it is all about trying different things. And I don't want to stop what we're doing because of feeling like this. So we talked about how I could let him know, you know, safe words don't work for us. Mr. Fox's hearing is not brilliant. So, and we...
Particularly when I got thighs around my ears.
Exactly.
Such a hindrance.
So we came upon this Apple iTag. I've not been sent a free one, and unless anyone wants to send me, I'm not, I'm not sponsored by Apple iTag, but we bought an Apple iTag, and Mr. Foxy very generously wears it on his wrist, and I have an Apple Watch, and if I am uncomfortable or I feel I'm not getting enough attention, or if I'm in a situation where I feel threatened at all, because obviously you can be wandering off, and, if a guy's getting to whatever, I can ping him.
I get the Fox signal.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely brilliant.
I think it's an amazing idea, and I'm sure there'll probably be some couples listening to this episode going, "Oh my God, why didn't we think of that?"
It's like a modern way of communicating, isn't it?
From my perspective, when she told me how she felt as her partner, I was devastated, because that's not what we go there for. So when we talked about, okay, how do we put this right? How do we avoid it from happening in a future situation? And this kind of, obviously it came up as a bit of a joke to begin with, but I went, no. Let's do that. I'm more than happy to wear it, because it gives you a degree of reassurance, which then means we both can enjoy the evening. And do you know what? Since I've started wearing it, we've never had to, because it has that built-in reassurance.
Yeah, and I imagine that makes you calmer, Mr. Foxy, because you have got something on your arm that that instant, if your partner isn't happy.
I just wish it would vibrate harder. I could wear it on my penis.
And if anybody who makes those wants to sponsor us, we're up for that.
I'm just making a note of this for vanillatoVixen.co.uk. Vibrating cock rings with this is great.
With an ingrown bat signal in there.
Yes.
And there are couples, I'm sure there are people going to be listening to you stupid cow, just stay at home with your knitting and don't go and swing if that's how you feel. And I get that as well, but...
Yeah, but why? No, I don't agree with that. It's like, why should you? Just because you've got, I don't want to say the word issues. I don't think they're issues.
No.
I think it's just part of your makeup.
Yeah.
And it's like, people might forget that you actually haven't been in the naughty hobby that long.
No.
You obviously get out of it more than the issues that you've faced.
Yes.
So exactly. So why would you... there's very few things in this life where they're all 100% positive.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think to face the issues that you faced and deal with that shows incredible communication skills, and
it also shows the type of relationship that you and Mr. Fox have together.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly special, because I'm sure there's people out there that probably don't feel they have that level of communication with their partner.
And I'm sure there's an awful lot of couples that would have just fallen at the first hurdle and just given up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing to be aware of is the naughty hobby, as we've said many times, isn't just about the sex.
No, absolutely not. There's there is an emotional involvement. It's a big thing, and I think I've been talk about a slow starter. I've gone into the hobby, I've dipped my toe in, I've taken it out, I've dipped my toe in, I've taken it out. I'm still not...
You've dipped more than your toe in.
Yeah. But we have had, our experiences have been sort of 50-50, haven't they, really? I'd say we've had 50% that we wouldn't want to repeat. We've been really lucky. As I'm sure anybody that's in Mini Club, I'm getting quite a reputation as a unicorn hunter. We've played a lot with women. I feel more confident sexually with another woman than I do with other men. And it makes me I do hold back. And I've had a bit of finger wagging from gentlemen this week when I've moaned about this, guys that I'm friends with. Well, you're not giving out the right signals. And I think that's true, because I go into a club, we quite often we will go with a unicorn, or we'll find a unicorn, and that's how we play. And I feel safe in that. But then when I come away, I feel like I've cheated myself a little bit.
You absolutely do. And we've had this conversation on numerous occasions where we leave and you go, well, I haven't had any cock tonight. I say, whose fault's that?
Yeah.
You know, I can point to at least half a dozen that were clambering, and you've kind of, there's just been one reason or another, and I don't know.
I suppose it's a bit like going into a restaurant, isn't it, and ordering the chicken and going, well, bugger me, I didn't have any fish tonight.
Yeah, I'm the sort of, I would never refer to a unicorn as a star, because there's absolutely, it's opened up another world for me playing with other women. And I like to think I've sort of helped newbie women who are nervous along the way, because we have quite often played with couples where the woman is new and I've just played with the woman, and it's never, do you know what, it's never just about warming the guys up as far as I'm concerned. It's never just about idle curiosity. I love that for its own sake.
Yeah.
And so I think I seek that out as a comfort thing. I'm comfortable with other women. I feel more confident in my body with another woman currently.
But you'd probably find that there's lots of other women that feel exactly the same way that you do.
Mm.
And as we've said before, and we mention it so many times, that when you're in the naughty hobby, you evolve, but the speed that you evolve doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, like you say, you're really slow to... I mean, you can't get much slower than me and Mr N. For goodness sake, we lived off one experience for 6 years.
This is true.
And
it's been interesting. We've mentioned the evolution, and from the outset, we've been... we started out just meeting couples, and then that evolved into bifem couples, and that's been our primary go-to. And then, as explained, we've sort of moved on to meeting unicorns for the reasons that have been mentioned. But because she's been frustrated with those feelings of, well, why am I not attracting, or why is this happening? We've had to reconsider, because we've never, to be honest, entertained single guys, that we've ended up starting to talk about that and look to potentially introduce that into what we do, really just to help build her confidence and understanding that, it isn't because they're avoiding her, just to kind of to find out how that works. But then that has introduced a new dynamic whereas 99.9% of the time, Mr. Foxy is uber confident, but I'm now having to deal with a very, very different scenario that we together have ever been used to, where I'm starting to have a look at how do I feel with how she interacts with single guys.
Wow.
Because we've always worked with couples and we're both busy and involved and engaged. And I think quite often there is a different approach from guys in a couple to some single guys.
Yeah.
So that changes the dynamic and it changes the view. And I'm quite alpha. So the last thing I want is a single guy to
behave like a bull.
Sorry?
Behave like a bull with me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's that degree of respect. Some of them are probably used to going with hot wife couples or cuckold couples. And if they stepped into our relationship and tried to do that, I'm going to get very territorial.
Of course,
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. It's so important, isn't it, to remember that the communication isn't just between you two as a couple, that the communication has to stretch to whoever you're playing with, so they know exactly what they're walking into before you kind of hit the playroom or the bedroom.
Yeah, it's not fair. I mean, you single guys get a really bad rap, don't they? And some of them deservedly so. I won't argue with that. But the single guys that we know of, or that we chat to regularly in Discord and whatever, they're not like that. They understand the dynamic. They're respectful. But I know that you've got to be really careful, because you've got to be fair, haven't you, to everybody? There's no point in kind of just bumbling along with things like this. And do you know what? You kind of think, don't you, that you should just be able to throw your knickers in the air and it'll all just happen and it'll be fine. You don't have to think about it, and it shouldn't be complicated, and it should be easy, and it should be fun. But you've got to do your prep, haven't you? Mr. Foxy was in the military, and he always says you've had the 6 Ps, don't you? None of them are penises. Sorry. What are they?
Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Yes, exactly that. So you've got to, and you are very good, aren't you? When you contact people, you're straight away, you're like down to brass tacks. This is how we play. How do you play? How do you see this going? Are you interested in a meet? Are you just interested in flirting on? You know, all that kind of thing. It needs to be done. That's just me anyway.
No, you're absolutely spot on.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we've been at Libs numerous times, and we've kind of found different people to play with it at a particular time, which again was a big evolution for us, because to begin with it was, no, we do everything together, that's it. There is no separate. But as we've got to know people, and that builds up trust.
Absolutely.
You know, I may end up playing with someone who we've played with before, and Miss Foxy will be, such and such over there, I'm going to go and have a chat and a play. And in that situation, you know, obviously I do enjoy watching. I love to see what's unfolding. But again, I think it's whilst you're both enjoying yourselves, it's so much easier from our perspective.
And you're also in surroundings that you feel very comfortable in.
There is that as well. Never mind separate rooms. We never even used to do separate beds, did we? If I couldn't reach my hand out and find him there, then I would feel completely, I don't want to say exposed, because obviously I'm there with my day glow, whatever, so I am exposed. But so it took a lot for me to even move to sort of a different bed. Even adjacent beds felt particularly daring.
And you do, you know, you've as you move along, you kind of test yourself a little bit. There have been times when you've kind of gone, right, I've got my big girl pants on. Actually, no, I haven't got any pants on, but I'm imagining
metaphorically.
And then she said, right, you stay here and play. I'm going to go off and have a chat or get a drink or
do a reach round on some poor
You see, now listen, Mrs. Fox, I have a word to talk to you about this, because you say that you don't have anything, you know, a unique selling point. For anybody that knows you, my lovely, knows that you do the best underneath wraparound grabbing a balls like you would not believe.
This thing needs a name. We need to come up with a name.
We do need to find it a name.
Cupping.
Yeah, I used to work in a roastery. Cupping meant something completely different.
Mrs. Foxy is an expert cupper.
But I know on good authority from some very good friends of ours who, again, they are like a hot wife couple. And I believe the last time we were all at Libs, they were obviously playing on one of the beds. And I heard later on that Miss Foxy had done her famous, fabulous cupping and actually made the husband shoot his cum straight up his wife's nose.
I saw that. That was incredible. Yeah. And the look on his face at the same time was a joy to be held.
Exactly.
Well, something else.
No, listen here, Mrs. That is a talent.
Well, I wasn't sure if that had worked, actually, because I kind of made eye contact with the wife and intimated that I was going, because obviously it's all about consent, isn't it? It's just as important for the men as the ladies. So I am a bit if I know the man. So sorry, Mr. N, if it's you, you're going to get it whether you consent or not.
Oh, no.
He would definitely consent, baby. Don't worry about that.
I absolutely 100% like consent via my wife. If she says yes, just go ahead.
He'd be more upset if you didn't do it to him.
Absolutely.
Well, I kind of just nipped around the back and looked for my in. I'm kind of like somebody in a smart car on a roundabout in Paris. I'm just looking for that gap to get in. And I kind of and the guy, I won't say stiffened up, because he was going at it sort of alpha leather and whatever. And then afterwards, I said to Mr. Foxy, I think I might have overstepped there. I'm not sure if I should have done that. And he went, no, I could see him. It was absolutely fine. Honestly, she was quite shocked, but yes.
That's because it did go up her nose at a rate of knots.
She said it went straight up her nose. She said it was hilarious. But she said the look on his face, I think, made her nigh, because it was like, obviously they'd not experienced anything like that before. And they obviously both got an awful lot out of it. So
it's like listening for a bird call, because you kind of hear that.
I thought the whole night might be sponsored by Kleenex.
There's going to be a queue of people asking for a cupping now or something.
There will be. You will be.
You know it's coming.
It has to be spontaneous.
Yeah, it's not the same if you know it's coming.
Brace yourself, Barry.
Yeah. When I'm upside down at the weekend at Tina Von Teese's mercy, I'll be regretting that I've done this, won't I? Because
yes. It's going to be a very special night on Saturday because we've got, for the first ever time
in the history, we've got a swingers night, and Liberty Elite it's a very, very posh dungeon. Yeah, it's
a very posh dungeon. And we've got Tina Von Teese with her partner, because it's couples, obviously, on Saturday night at Liberty Elite. And we've got Tina Von Teese with her partner, and she's going to be doing some demos.
Is that demolitions?
Well,
possibly.
It might be.
If you don't behave yourself, you never know what might happen.
if you start mentioning heavy trucks and vehicles to Tina Von Teese,
just say tractor to her, she'll be off.
But you see, I think it's fantastic because we're mixing up the whole thing, because for years and years and years, people have said kink and swinging don't mix. And if you've got the real sort of traditional kink and fetish sort of group, all of that is done very, very quietly. There's no music, or I know at fetish events they do sort of sometimes play very relaxing classical sort of style music. But this night is going to be literally next to a dance floor with DJs. And then behind the curtain, that sounds kind of super sexy, doesn't it? Yeah. Behind the curtain, there could be all sorts going on, a little bit sort of kink and fetish style.
Beyond Tina's velvet rope, I think it's going to be fascinating. It's lovely, though, because it is... I've seen Tina do sort of little off-the-cuff demos at other events that you guys have had.
Off-the-cuff, very clever.
Yeah. Coming out of that, that is like Kinky Mary Poppins' handbag that she carries it. She's like aching it all out. But I think it's a great way. I know lots of people that are curious, but they don't want to go to a kink event because they're going to feel like they don't know what they're doing. They're going to feel nobody wants to look stupid, do they? I mean, we've all got that in us. Nobody wants to look stupid, and I'm a classic one for that. I think, well, I'd love to do that, but I wouldn't want to look like an idiot or not know what I'm doing or start laughing when I shouldn't be laughing, although I'd probably get punished for it, which is all part of it. But I think it's a great way to kind of satisfy that little bit of curiosity. There are lots of people out there, us included, that probably are not into the heavier side of BDSM, but maybe have little kinks. And me and Miss...
Sensation play. We've discovered, just through doing the show, that sensation play is incredible.
Exactly. But we went to help out on the Halloween night at Liberty, and we got chatting to this couple, and the lady there, what her kink is that she'd like to be spanked. And she said, I don't know where to go.
She wasn't sure about going to a full kink sort of night or sort of event, because she wasn't sure that was her kink.
No.
So she was sort of a classic sort of person who wanted to kind of mix the two. She liked swinging. She was more into swinging than kink, but she did like spanking.
Yeah.
And so
I completely get that.
And I think as well, it's even more ideal because it is in a separate area. Because similarly, and I know they've been on other nights at Libs where there have been small groups of people who are interested in the lighter side of it and spanking and so on. And it has gone on in the main playroom. But then in that situation, there are other people who may feel uncomfortable because that's happening.
Yeah.
In that space.
Yeah.
So
that's a really good point. And it's a night as well where you might get a lot of newbies and they certainly won't want to see spanking and
Exactly, I think that's what's the beauty of this event and doing it in this way, because, again, another evolution. And I think it sounds absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
I think one thing we try to get across, especially to newbies, because obviously our events are geared up for a lot of newbies. And it's like what you say, Mr. Fox. It's that confidence of being able to say if something is bothering you. But what we try to tell the newbies is it's not a bad thing if you have to turn around and say to somebody, actually, you know what, I don't like that, or I'd rather you didn't do that. You know, it's not a normal situation to be in when you're in that environment.
Yeah.
Then think you're not a nice girl if you say, actually, that's not for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's the thing that we try and get across to the newbies, that, you know, you're not talking in a muggle situation.
And you're saving the other person precious time.
Yeah.
Because as everybody knows, time just goes so quickly.
Oh, it runs through your fingers like nobody's business.
And
you and your fingers again.
And so,
you know what runs through your fingers.
I'm sure, you know, a couple or a guy or a female doesn't want to kind of spend 2 or 3 hours kind of really spending time with another couple if in that they're kind of looking to play and they're building it up, hoping it will happen. It would be far kinder of the other person to say, I'm sorry, you're not the type of person that I want to play with, or that's not my dynamic, or whatever, so that they can then move on. Because as we know, the joy of being in a club, there's lots of other people, and so they can move on and then find someone that does fit their dynamic or is more sexually attracted to that kind of thing.
You absolutely hit the nail on the head, because I think, and this is what we try and get across to people, is that it is a different environment. We're not dealing with people in the same way that we do out in the Muggle world, and it does make sense just to speak up and let people know, because we can do it in this environment. It isn't what happens down the pub. People would get offended, but you know, in our world, people are much nicer.
That's so true.
They are, and they're a lot more accepting. I mean, I've gone through stages, you know, a few years ago. Even when I first met Mr. N, one of my finer points was that I always thought I gave really good blowjobs.
You did.
Thank you.
You told me this quite early on. I thought, she's a keeper.
But there have been situations where it's almost... And especially in a club environment, men don't want to come really quickly because they want to enjoy their evening. And I found that really quite hard in the beginning, because I just thought, I'm losing my touch, you know, because it'd be like, if it took more than a couple of minutes, it's like, that's it. I'm not doing it right. Something's wrong. But
well, we've talked about this previously as well. And you know, I look upon it being quite favourable, because I don't come very often. I certainly don't come very quickly. And so for me, it's fantastic, because I get to enjoy myself for much, much longer. But it brings up, as you said, it's unusual, because, you know, quite often if women are pleasuring a guy, they want some feedback and they want to feel as though they're doing a good job. So if a guy doesn't, like you said, you think, well, what am I doing wrong?
yeah.
And it's the wrong way. It's like we keep saying, it's something that Miss Foxy and I talk about is, you know, it's the journey, not the destination. We're there to enjoy what's happening. You know, it's not, if you were going to a musical concert, if what happened at the end was most important, well, the orchestra or the band might as well just play the last few notes and skip the rest of it.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You know, you go there to enjoy the whole performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I've kind of re-educated myself now, though, because it's happened a few times, that I've actually got to the point now where, and this happened quite recently, where I was giving a guy a blowjob and he was like, I'm so sorry, he said, but I'm absolutely spent. And whereas before I probably would have been a little bit hurt by that and taken it a bit personally, I just went, do you know what, mate? It's absolutely fine. I'm just enjoying myself.
Exactly. It's not going to feel horrible for him, is it? Let's put it that way.
And if they can't quite finish, all they have to do is raise a hand in the air and Miss Foxy will run over
And give them a
shove
good
a hand between
cupping.
their legs.
We need to be a tag team, Miss Foxy. That's what we need.
Yeah, that's what I should do. Perhaps that's what I should do, to change my unique selling point. But no, and it's the same. It's the same for women. I know a lot of women struggle to orgasm in the big playroom. and you feel, oh, am I taking?
Not when I'm there.
Pointing at him. And you sort of, oh, I'm taking too long, and I do, I'm conscious of myself. You're laying there thinking, oh my God, they're going to, that lady or that man's going to be bored shitless down there, and then you think, no, just relax and go with you after. Well, we've got a friend that's been in the swinging scene for years and years and years and years, and she, when we first started out, she said, stop thinking about thinking and feel the feelings.
Absolutely.
And that's the best bit of advice anybody's ever given me, because instead of lying there or being on top of somebody and thinking, oh, I must hold my stomach in, and is my cellulite showing, and does my face look funny when I come? Just stop all of that and feel the way your body feels and embrace that, and just switch your bloody head off.
To be honest, I mean, that's great advice for life, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think with today's sort of speed that everything travels at, well, apart from Wales, obviously they're now down to 20 miles an hour. But
they're getting overtaken by cyclists now.
Yeah.
But everything moves too quickly, and we don't stop and enjoy the moment. We're almost trained these days to everything's timed and everything has to be, quick. I was watching a program about Amazon, and the pickers have 7 seconds to they're timed, and the toilet breaks are timed. It sounds horrendous.
Yeah, it is.
And I just think we're kind of missing what life is really about.
It takes time, though. I think it takes time to sort of reprogram yourself to be able to switch off. And it's like, and Mr and I always say, whenever we go to the club, we always feel like we've been on holiday, because you do start to relax and you start to sort of switch off from the Muggle world and what you've been up to that day, and just absorb the atmosphere and the people that you meet and everything. But it takes time. It's not something that can happen easily. It does take time to get your mindset to the, I just
take your music as people are coming in.
Yeah, meditation with the swinging Jedi when they're on the way in. But I think that as well, it's like you were saying, it's all about, everything has to be faster, it has to be quicker. We're looking for quicker food and quicker deliveries, and we're expecting that from playing in our sex lives. It's like quick score, quick orgasm. Yeah, I've got a toy that can make me come in like 20 seconds, but it's no fun. It's like brushing your teeth. Oh, I better just clamp that on and get that out of the way for today. Do you know what I mean? There's no...
Yeah. Although you might be doing it wrong, my lovely.
But even relationships are like that. You look at Tinder, where you swipe left, you swipe right. It's instant. Everything's just instant.
It's like a fast win, isn't it? All the time. And I think you might as well... It's like Mr Foxy was saying, you might as well listen to the end of the music, or you might as well... read who murdered the victims at the front of an Agatha Christie. And you don't want that for your sex life. If who wants to show up to a club, come within 20 minutes, and then go off home?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
there's always the buffet, as Mrs. Ed in the kitchen.
I have to pace myself.
Yeah. So why would you be looking for a fast win? And this is something I've had to sort of turn around in my head. I'm thinking, if I'm going to lay on the bed in that playroom and men or women want to pleasure me all evening and I don't actually have an orgasm, that's not a bad thing, is it? I've still got all that attention. It's not like your body feels horrible if you don't come.
Exactly.
There's so much more to it. And I think there's so much,
So if there's anybody out there that wants to pleasure Miss Foxy on the big bed, send your name to Mr and Mrs N at...
Oh, yes, the usual address. It's in the programme notes.
It's funny. It reminds me, actually, of the last time that we were at the club, and me and Mr N were actually on the big bed, which people know I don't do that very often because it scares me unless I've got all my bodyguards around me, so, making sure that there's no easy access anywhere. But we were lying on the bed, and even Mr N said afterwards, he said, I was so pleased you said that, because it's a very sexy environment to be in. And we were actually watching... it was it 3 women and a guy, or
it was about 3 ladies, I think, and a guy.
And they were obviously they were doing a lot of oral play and kissing and everything else.
And they were literally kind of like right next to us, weren't they?
But they never got to the final destination, and they just happily just got up and went and moved on to do whatever else they were doing. But the whole thing that they were doing was so erotic.
It was orchestrated, wasn't it? It was orchestrated.
I think that's the thing, and I think that's why really that I've played a lot with other women. Mr. Foxy and I were away last weekend, and we had a beautiful afternoon in a hotel room with 2 unicorns.
It was awful.
I can imagine.
But there was so much. It's like you say, it's the sensuality, it's the eroticism. There's no way everybody's going to come at the same time. And it was all the entanglement and all the sensations and all that. You know, at one point, Mr. Foxy said, he said, I kind of wanted to get in there. He said, but there's part of me that just thought, I'm sitting here having a whale of a time just watching. He could appreciate how sensual it was and how special it all was.
I called room service for popcorn.
And sort of by the end of the afternoon, they sort of, they all sort of went their separate ways, and it kind of, I wasn't sure who'd come and who hadn't, and it didn't matter. And it shouldn't matter that it shouldn't just be about scoring a goal, should it? Should we watch the World Cup and say, let's not watch all the football, let's just have penalty shootouts?
Yeah.
That would suit me down to the ground, but that's an analogy for a man.
The Germans would love that.
Hello to our German listeners.
Auf Wiedersehen, they've just switched off.
Yeah, they're all gone now. They've all gone now. They're in the gardens training their children to
They've
kick
nipped
with
down
their
to the
left
pool
foot.
to put the towels on the Sunday.
But yeah, I think half of our problem as human beings is we put too much pressure on ourselves to perform in any way you want to.
I think that's really, really good advice for the whole thing of what we said today, like and the jealousy of with other people, is that we put too much pressure on ourselves.
Yeah, we do.
It's very difficult because, we talk about the difference in the naughty hobby compared to the Muggle world, but we do come from the Muggle world, and we bring with us a lot of that conditioning and some of the feelings and fears that are there. And it's trying to find a way, if somehow magically, maybe we need to get the wizard from behind the curtain, that we can, as you step through the door, is you feel you can leave them outside, step out of all of those concerns and worries.
Yeah.
And kind of step into a new way of thinking once you get inside of the club, and feel yourself relax, to feel those burdens and pressures and thoughts and feelings disappear, and know that you're there just to enjoy yourself.
That's so true.
And then when you say enjoy yourself, there are so many different ways you can do that. And it's not, as we've said many a time, people just go to, just to sit and watch people is incredibly horny.
And that proximity to all of that sexuality is phenomenal. There should be a big jar on the reception at Libs, and there should be some post-it notes. And when you go into Libs, you should have to write down what you want to leave outside for the night, and we should all fill a jar. We should do one event where we fill a jar of what we want to leave behind for the night, and then you could do a podcast. You could they could all be anonymous. You could open them up and see what people want to leave behind when they walk through the doors of the club. I think that would be fascinating.
I love that.
That would be an absolutely amazing idea.
How about for New Year, if we did it in the New Year?
Yeah, that is a definite. We're definitely doing that. I love that.
That's a brilliant idea, Mrs. Foxy. Absolutely brilliant.
I think it's fascinating. You look around, don't you? And we make friendships. And I've got friends on Discord who I've never met, who I've met through your community. And I talk to quite a lot of them. And a lot of the times it's just sexy stuff. But then you get real, open, honest friendships. And I think we're all too inclined to judge. I'm a firm believer in that. We're all too inclined to judge, and to just openly be able to listen to other people and get a little snapshot of their lives. It's very rarely what you see in a club. You see something go on in a club and think, okay, well, whatever, and you have an idea in your mind, or you hear something on the podcast, don't you? And you think, oh, I'm not sure about that. But you speak to people in a different environment, and we are so we're so complicated. That is every human's being unique selling point is their complications, because we are all complicated. And that's something we have to learn to embrace, whether it be our jealousy or our insecurity. There's so much more good stuff wrapped up in that. You know, what makes me special as a person is that I have got a bit of insecurity.
Yeah. That
I am honest about the way I feel, and I can say, you know, this makes me feel vulnerable because I don't want to lose my partner.
And I think the other thing, and I know that myself and Mr. N have spoken about this before when we've talked about my jealousy, and rather than it be a negative, Mr. N actually turned it into a positive, and he actually said that, you know, he quite likes the fact that I get jealous, because it makes him feel like it's because that's how much I care about him and how much I love him.
It's very true. It's very true.
So I don't think it should ever be spoken about as a negative.
I think it depends. It's like fear, though. If fear or depression, everybody sometimes gets a bit down. But it's at that point where if you feel down, it's stopping you doing your daily routine, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And jealousy is the same thing. If there's a little bit of jealousy there, that's great. But if it impacts your relationship in a negative way, then's the time to sit down, communicate, deal with it.
Yeah.
But you know, our jealousy, or your jealousy, you know, as you said towards that you have, we're sometimes within the lifestyle, is something that we've talked about, and I've always it's never been a problem.
No,
it's never been a big issue, and we've just gone along with things and explored and experimented. It's never stopped us doing the things that we want to do in the lifestyle as a couple.
No. But it is a case of you it's something that I remember our lovely Roxy said. You always need to try something at least twice.
Absolutely.
And I think because when you start off in this lifestyle, I don't think you necessarily know what your dynamic is. And I think sometimes you have to go down those different avenues to say, actually, do you know what? No, that didn't work for us. So we're definitely not on that page, but this did work for us.
I think if you come into the naughty hobby with an idea of, I want to do this, I want to do that, you might disappoint yourself. The best way to come into it is just to come in and go, okay, show me what's happening, show me how, you know, what goes on here, and just go in with a really open mind, and I think that'll always give you the best results.
I think as well, quite often things trip you up that you're not expecting, and then some things you're completely okay with.
Yeah. If
you had said to me 12 months ago, you know, if Mr. Foxy had said, I'd love to spend an afternoon in a hotel room with 3 women, I probably would have been livid if he even had suggested it, because I'd have straight away, it would have brought up all this inadequacies. They're going to be younger than me. They're going to be this, they're going to be that. I had the best time last weekend, but the best thing of all about it was looking at his face and knowing that I had given him that.
Yeah.
I got a real kick out of that. There was a little bit of me that was jealous because they were both really young and really beautiful and really good at what they did. There was a little bit of jealousy, but then I thought, he's still coming home with me. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I had given him something that previous partners couldn't have given him, you know, and I couldn't have given him.
And they gave you a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
So let's not skirt around that.
Yeah,
but,
okay.
But it's that.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was now. That famous saying, you know, comparison is the thief of joy.
It really is.
You know, and it's learning to come at things with no judgment, which is difficult. But that's something that I think, you know, if you can try and look at things, if it wrangles you a little bit, is be open and honest about it, but don't bring judgment with it. You know, you say, okay, this bothered me. Why did that bother me? And how do we get around that? Because then the last thing you want to be doing in a relationship, we don't do this to cause problems, but as soon as why did you do that? You know that this, and it turns into an argument because people naturally become defensive. That's not where you want to be going. You know, you go into here to dip your toe into fresh pools, you know, and if the temperature's not quite right, well, then you have to say something about it.
Yeah.
And your partner can go, okay, well, that's fine. Well, we'll not go in that pool, or we'll change the temperature, or whatever makes you happy, because we want to enjoy this together. And it's being able to come at it from that place that really gives you the big wins in overcoming some of these minor difficulties.
And I think generally, if something makes you uncomfortable, then it probably needs looking at one way or another, even if it's to say we're never doing that again.
Absolutely.
If something it makes you, or if you, and sometimes it can be something somebody else is doing, or something you're reading about or hearing about, and you think, oh, that, I used to be quite, I've been quite judgy. I've seen women do things in clubs and thought, well, that's not quite nice behaviour. Do you know what I mean? Really old-fashioned, quite. And I'm thinking, why is that making me uncomfortable? Is it because I wish I was in that position? Is it because of old baggage? Is it because of judgment? And you have to kind of drill down and look at these things sometimes.
And we've had that. It's like, you kind of go, oh, well, why are they doing that? And you're like, well, I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. And it's like, actually, yes, you can. And that sounds quite fun. Why don't we do it?
Yeah. I can remember being really judgy, but just before we started this, I can remember seeing a friend of ours and having a look at her Fab profile, and she was, her verifications practically made my eyes bleed. She was doing all this with this, that, and that, and I'm thinking, oh my God. And there was part of me that thought that's absolutely disgusting. But then at 2:00 in the morning, I was out on our decking wanking myself stupid because the whole thing had turned me on so much.
That's really interesting, though, isn't it?
Honestly, I'm just such a hypocrite. But then I said to Mr. Foxy, we really need to talk about this. I said, because I was almost incensed at all these things that she was doing. And it was complete jealousy and envy, because I didn't think because she was younger than me. And it came from a horrible place. But
the jealousy was, I want it.
I want all that attention.
And look what an incredibly beautiful person you are to be able to come out and say, your evolution, what you've learned about yourself, what you've learned about your relationship. That's the incredible thing.
All the time I was growing up, I was trying to find a place to fit in. I was trying to be a perfect wife. I was trying to be a perfect mum. I was, a victim of the school gate mafia because I never had, the right Crocs on or whatever. You're always trying to sort of fit in and find your place. You don't have to find your place. You can wake up and be a different person every single day. And I don't mean people who've got mental issues, and I don't mean to dismiss that. You can wake up and you can be whoever you want to be that day. If you want to walk to work like a sex goddess, you can be that. If you want to sit at home and crochet and eat digestive biscuits, you can do that. You don't have to put yourself in a box, and you shouldn't be trying to put anybody else in one either.
No, I mean, I have to be honest, my life up until I met Mr. N, I was one of those people that was almost too afraid to have my own opinion. So I would always agree with everybody else, even though that probably wasn't what I was actually thinking. And it is a very difficult thing to do, to be able to say to yourself, actually, it doesn't matter if my opinion's different to theirs. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make me a bad person. But it takes a long time. And I think as women, we're incredibly hard on ourselves because we're always comparing and, well, they do this and they do that and I can't do that. I mean, I remember saying to Mr. N, there's something that happens in the playroom that I still really struggle with. But I think part of it is probably jealousy. And that's if I suppose there's no other way of saying it without being fairly graphic, is there?
Go for it.
So when a woman's being fingered and they do it quite vigorously, there's part of me, obviously because of my problem, there's part of me that literally, I almost am in pain just watching it. But then on the other side of that, there's a jealousy that I can't do that. And I think as women, we do beat ourselves up so much.
But do you want to do that?
I don't know. I don't know, because I'd be
curiosity as well.
And there's that feeling of not being good enough. Bearing in mind what I do a lot of the time, I talk to a lot of people about, as people, we're constantly swimming around in goop. Goop being what I call the good opinion of other people. We're always trying to compare and worry about what we look like to other people, whether we're fitting in with their pictures. But what we don't realise is they're too busy wondering what other people are thinking about them to be wondering what you're up to.
Yeah. So a final question for Miss Foxy. So going back to obviously what you were saying about, you have all these jealousy issues and it's almost like you're not good enough because you're not this and you're not that. Do you have in your mind a place where you want to be? Almost like a goal or something.
That's a destination.
Yeah, I know. Do you know what I mean, though? I can't think of the best way to sort of ask the question.
No, I do know what you mean, and I think that's a really, really good question. I would like to be somebody that can travel under my own steam. I'd like to be able to walk into libs and approach other people, whether it be men or women, and really be able to be myself and express myself, whether that be through conversation or sexually. I'd like to be able to ask what I want. I was really brave. The time before last at Libs, a couple came and I actually went and said to them, everybody was still dressed, we both think you're both incredibly attractive and we would really love the opportunity to play with you. My heart was in my mouth when I said it. We didn't end up playing with them because we just ended up in different places.
But fortunately, they're coming to the next V2V.
I would like to be her, that lady that walked up and said that. And it didn't matter if they said no or not. And they both sort of said that they appreciated my very direct approach. I'd like to be her.
Something very sexy about that, though. This is what I try and get across to Miss Foxy, is that, I think, guys, when you see a confident woman is incredibly sexy.
I totally agree.
To be able to take on that persona and have that confidence is I would say, looking from the outside, is that place where you're looking to go to. Yeah. And I think for both of us, I think because of the nature of what we do is being able to go into that environment and share and do whatever for the pure sake of pleasure and not have any of that judgment, and to be able to share with one another and enjoy what each other are doing without hanging things on it that makes it feel uncomfortable
or complicated. I think when I see other women in clubs, it strikes me that the confident women, they seem to have this kind of power about them, and I would love to see myself as that kind of woman. I think she's probably in there somewhere.
The funny thing is, though, you saying that, I see that in you already.
She just has to embrace it. I absolutely agree with you. She is there, and it's just having the courage to let go.
Yeah, maybe.
It is there, my lovely, honestly.
I think as well, I think women who come into this lifestyle, naughty hobby,
yes,
have a rougher time, because it's the classic scenarios where if a guy sleeps with a lot of women, he's a stud. But tradition tells us that if a woman sleeps with a lot of guys, she's a slut, and the word slut is used in a positive sense within this naughty hobby.
Absolutely.
But still, to the muggle world, that is still a negative.
Yeah.
So I think for some women, not all, but for some women who come into this naughty hobby, I think it takes a while to kind of get your head around that.
Yeah.
It's that change in rule set. We know when we're doing the tours for you guys is saying to the women, this is your environment. You hold the power.
Yeah.
All the rules are there to help support and raise you up. And it's learning to embrace that power and run with it.
Well, physical pleasure is a right. Our bodies are here for us. A lot of women feel that your body is I've talked about this before endlessly. A service. Your body behaves itself when you live at home. You get married. Your body becomes a thing of service for children, for husbands, whatever. I think women and younger women are getting this. I really do believe that younger women are getting this. Our bodies are here for pleasure, and that's an absolute right. It's a fundamental right to do with your body in a safe way as possible, not hurting anybody, what you wish. But it takes a long time for women of maybe my age and a little bit younger to get their head around that, because it's not the way our mothers were brought up, unless they were a sort of woman.
Yeah, no,
so true.
It is really true, because we are kind of almost conditioned that way, aren't we?
Absolutely.
And when you do, it's a sight to behold.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen on many occasions, there are times when certain individuals have given into that pleasure cycle. And I have to say, Miss Foxy has been there on occasion, on more than one occasion. You notice people stop and watch. It just, the energy in the room is something different, because everybody kind of goes, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You sit, Mrs. Foxy, saying, about you don't feel so confident and this, that, and the other. But I remember my mind goes back to when we were all at Chameleons, and we were trying out the dungeon.
Yeah.
And there you can, obviously, for people that don't know, you can kind of close the wrought iron gate so people can watch. And I think the four of us, we were all in the room. And then as we left, there was a couple of couples that just went, oh my God, you were all so hot. And they were watching you and Mrs. N. But you and Mrs. N completely missed that. And
yeah. I did. I wasn't aware of that. I just knew that you told everybody I nearly went to the glory holes by accident. I wasn't aware of anything else.
We spent most of the evening just walking around in circles because we just got lost.
Think about Alice in Wonderland. That's some kind of place.
But Mrs. Foxy always makes things worse for herself, because we've been on the big bed on occasion and played with other people, and I kind of say to her, I said, like, did you notice? Did you notice? And she's like, no, I have my eyes closed. It's like, open your eyes. Then you might actually notice that people are in awe. And we've done that. We've visited another club, and it was interesting. They have this where they put a chain across the doorway, which indicates that you can't go in, but it leaves the doorway open. And we'd gone into the room to play, just the two of us. And it has these flashing lights. It's really quite impressive. But me being me, the exhibitionist as I am, made sure that we positioned ourselves in such a way so that when Miss Foxy was on top, she was facing the door. And the crowd that grew watching as she was writhing around on top of me with all of these lights all over her body, I mean, quite how there wasn't like a rousing applause at the end of it. As we left, there were a few people got almost beside themselves going, oh my God, that was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it takes people to speak up and say that, or for you to notice. And I think even you guys have said, you'd watched people walk past and just kind of stare in awe.
Yeah.
But it took you saying to Miss Foxy, all these people were watching, and she was like oblivious.
The whole room stopped, didn't they?
Yeah.
The whole room stopped, and there literally were eyes on you guys, because it was just phenomenal to watch.
So I think, a call out to people, when things happen, you see it, then just go, wow, that was just incredible. I'm blown away by what I saw. Sharing it, we're in that environment.
And you might just change someone's life. That is brilliant advice to finish the show on.
As always, my lovelies, we just adore talking to you.
I love talking to you. There's never enough time. There's never enough talk time. There's never enough play time.
I
If
know.
only we had somewhere we could go and catch up soon.
Like this weekend.
Oh,
Let me have a think.
What are you doing Saturday, my lovers?
I'm so excited. I can't wait to see you both.
Oh, it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be brilliant.
Well, you have a very, very safe journey down there. Up there. Is it up there? It's up there, isn't it?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
There's lots of up and down.
Yeah.
It's a bit like a night at Libs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys.
Oh, we love you.
Bye-bye.
We love you
Love
too.
you
Take
too.
care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
Bye.